Hey guys, welcome to the first video on the Tech Archaeologist channel, and this is going to be about Linux. Since as the Tech Archaeologist, it's my duty to cover a lot of stuff. And okay, so more about the Tech Archaeologist channel will be on the intro video. And here, this is going to be purely concentrating on a little bit of what Linux is and installing the Linux operating system. So first of all, we are going to be concentrating on Ubuntu here, which is a very popular operating system. Now, if you don't know about Ubuntu, there is no reason to worry. Of course, this video will make it all clear. And the basic question comes to what is Linux? Okay, so if you don't know, Windows, you may know, is an operating system. Okay, we use a computer anywhere we go, mostly everywhere we go. It's Windows 7, which you still find in India these days. Then there's Windows 10, and now, of course, there's the upcoming Windows 11. On your mobiles, you use Android. Android is an operating system. What Apple phones have, that is iOS, that is another different kind of operating system. It's the same way PCs can have something called Linux. On a laptop, on your PC, you can have Linux. So what is Linux? Linux is an operating system that is open source, which means anybody, nearly anybody in the world can contribute to the code that goes into all of our systems. So what this does is everybody can contribute a small part to make something as big as an operating system. You all might know that Windows 10, Windows 11, as we use them, they seem quite complex. Than complex, you may feel that it is easier to use. Yes, it is, but if you see it from a programming perspective, it's very complex. And to make that complex stuff easier for us, they need to write even more complex code. And since as the code goes on increasing, stuff becomes more and more complex. People need to put in more time, which is why Microsoft needs to charge you for the operating system. People work on that. People have to be paid, and that is why you have to pay. Whereas at the same point, Linux allows many people to contribute small parts of their time and they give small pieces of code which work together as a whole to create a complete operating system. So that is what Linux is. And as we will continue, first step is to download the Linux operating system. How do we do that? We go to www.ubuntu. Yeah, it's just ubuntu.com. So you can type in the www. It won't make a difference here. But yeah, then we go to downloads. We click on the arrow. We go for Ubuntu desktop. Ignore these others for now. I will tell you what they are in time. And I believe many of you might even understand if you're already at my channel. But yeah, so we will go for the LTS version. LTS stands for long-term support. It means that for the next 5 years after this release, so I think this is a 2020 release, for the next 5 years there will be updates, that is security and the driver updates, which will be available for this particular version of the desktop software of the operating system. So we just click on download, sorry, 20.04, and we will automatically get the ISO file. You will get a download option, and we can click save file, and we can say OK, and this will automatically start downloading. Now you can see that I already have it here, and so I will not be downloading it again, but just click save, and it will start downloading. What else do we have to do? So now, if you are on a regular, internet connection, then this is not an issue. It should download pretty fast. But if you are on a slower connection or you can't keep your system on for a long time, I would advise that you go and use some P2P software. And I will not be discussing more about that right now. But this is the recommended way of downloading it. Uh, yeah, so after this, the next step comes in creating a bootable USB. And we will be doing that using a software called Rufus. So what do you mean by bootable USB? A bootable USB is a pen drive which you can put into your PC or your laptop, and when you're turning on the system, we use some special keys to boot into that particular disk. So when we boot into that particular disk, it allows us to access the operating system, means the operating system loads from that disk, and it gives you an interface which allows you to install the operating system on your hard disk. And yeah, so like Windows also has something as a bootable USB. The same way Linux has something a bootable USB. And thanking us for downloading, we should thank Ubuntu for allowing us to have this free desktop. So yeah, entirely free, guys. Nobody has to pay anything to download this basic version. And there are other flavors of Linux means with a different desktop, and that doesn't mean just mean the color. There are other things behind the scenes which are different, but we won't be discussing them here. So now we come to Rufus. Yeah, so Rufus you have to download. Okay, we have to also download Rufus from its site. So Rufus, search, enter, and we come here, rufus.ie. Yeah, this seems to be the correct site. Open the site, and you will see some photos. Scroll down, download, and the latest version, that is Rufus 3.17. Just click and it should begin give you the save file option. I'm going to cancel it now since I already have it. So as I said, you don't need to do the portable actually. You can just do the normal one. It doesn't make much of a difference. So Rufus, we have rufus.exe 3.17.exe, and we run this, we say yes, we allow. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this prompt, mostly you can't, but I got a prompt showing if I want to allow. If you're not the administrator on your device, then you will need the password, and I said yes, and that opens up with Rufus. Yes, welcome to Rufus. Now at this point of time, make sure that your before opening Rufus that your pen drive is attached to the system. And yeah, as you can see, it has already picked up my pen drive. That is the Tech Archaeologist pen drive. And you're wondering why I'm using 64 GB. You don't actually need a 64 GB pen drive. 8 GB pen drive is more than enough. 64 is just because I had it lying around here. You select which disk. So first I will say FreeDOS. Okay. And yeah, so it will make some certain settings. After which I have to select from here what I will be installing. So in the downloads, you will have your Ubuntu 20.04.3 desktop AMD64 image. So what does it mean, disk image file? It just means that originally operating systems used to be installed using a disk, that is a CD drive, and it is just a file, means it is exactly that disk, and in fact you can load it too. So maybe yeah, so you can see this mount option. You don't need to mount it now. You just need to select and say open. Don't double click. Yeah, just select and say open, and it is opened. And all these settings will be done automatically. You need not interfere with them. Next, you say start, and it will give you another option, ISO hybrid, etc. So you say write in ISO mode, which is recommended. You say OK, and after this yes, so all the data will be erased or destroyed. And yeah, so yeah, so there was this option here for quick format. It is better you back up your pen drive before you do this. So if you remove quick format, of course the data won't be gone, but I want to format it anyways, and we say OK. So now it will delete partitions and it will format the pen drive, then it will copy the ISO file, it will make some more changes to allow it to be bootable, etc. etc. So a lot of stuff happens behind the scenes. And during this time, let me tell you, you might see another option here, which tells you that there is some version incompatibility, which had come up to me the first time I did this. So it needs to install or it needs to download from the web some other files which are required for this ISO to be means for the pen drive to be properly configured. In that case, please be connected to the internet. Please say yes, and it will download them automatically. You will be able to see it in the status bar. Bus, and that's it. So it's copying the ISO file. We are waiting. Yeah, so another reason it's a 64 gigabyte disk or pen drive is because I wanted a little slightly larger pen drive which was has a slightly higher speed. So this is currently USB 3.1. Gen 2, I think. Yeah, so it's 3.1 Gen 2, and that is why we are using this. After some time, it does get slow. And this is going into the fast forward. I'm just rambling. Hopefully, my voice is audible. You never know these days. It's going to be a waste of time if my voice isn't audible. This is all going in the fast forward. So let me also tell you about what I'll be doing. I'll be installing this on a disk. Sorry, not on a disk, on my computer. My computer is, it's an old system. Maybe many people may have, many people won't. So I'll be installing it on that. That I think currently has Ubuntu and also an installation of Windows. It's a dual boot currently, but we will see that while doing it there. It is recommended that you have at least 4 gigabytes of RAM and a properly working hard disk. I am currently installing it on a solid state drive, an SSD, which is also a type of hard disk but faster. But you need not worry yourself about that right now. You just need to have a computer. You plug it behind that computer, and you need to have a little interest in doing this stuff. You need to find out proactively. Since each system is different, your system may have some settings which are different from mine, but the general process, once Ubuntu is up and running, will be the same. But you will have to find out how to boot into the USB drive on your system. And what I mean by that is on your motherboard specifically. So you have to, either you have to open your system, or if it's a laptop, you have to search up online. Just like we did with what is Linux, there will be many resources available. And it's nearly done. Analyzing, yes. So once it's done, we just say close, and then we can go and eject our pen drive. Oh, it's USB 3.2 Gen 1. Yeah. So we eject our pen drive, and it lets me eject my pen drive. And now I will see you in the video, since on the other system we need to move.
Hey guys, welcome back, and we continue at my PC. So what do I mean by my PC? So I mean that this is a screen. Here I have my keyboard, and yeah, I'm not supposed to show you guys around. It's not very clean. But yeah, apart from that, this is my PC. Yeah, the video is clear. I hope it is. And we are now going to start it up. So during the startup, you will see certain stuff, and by that I mean a certain part of the BIOS output. And BIOS is the basic input output system. So when you turn on your PC, it first goes to the BIOS, and the BIOS gets your bootloader. Okay, so on startup, the operating system isn't running right away. It needs to load some stuff into what is called the RAM, or the primary memory. So the RAM is easily accessible and fast, but it is volatile, which means if you turn the power off, any data stored is gone. Whereas the secondary memory, that is the hard disk, is slower. It can store a lot of data, and it has, how can I say this? It is quite slow, and it is where the operating system is stored. So the files are loaded from the hard disk to the primary memory, that is the RAM, and then your operating system begins to load. So who will load this into the RAM? So that is the bootloader. And who will tell the bootloader to start doing that? That is your BIOS. So your BIOS is something that is present on your motherboard. If your system isn't starting up, it's most likely one of, how can I say this? It's not three, but it's majorly three issues. One is that your BIOS is gone, or it is, how can I say, or it's corrupted. That is, there are some changes have occurred in the BIOS which were not supposed to be there, or your supply is not working, or most likely the push button you use to turn on your PC is not working. But otherwise it should most likely start up. So this is an old system, I have been using it for quite some time. And let's go here. So I press the button and I have started, and soon you will be able to see the display on the screen. I think you can already hear the noise. Yeah, it's quite loud, that is true. And here you can see the options down, boot menu. I press F12 very quick. So in my BIOS it shows you all this, but it's not necessary that it will in every BIOS. So I think now this is an issue. Yeah, I hope it can be seen better. So in every BIOS it might not show these options down, which will allow you to directly go into the BIOS or boot up, go into the boot menu. And some devices might not even have a boot menu that is visible to you. So to do this, what else you can do is you can just go into the BIOS. That too will not be visible. There are certain ways of doing that in Windows, and I will be linking that into another video, into the subsequent video, if you will, and we will see that there on the laptop itself. But as of now, as you can already see, it has a boot menu, and in this boot menu we go to USB HDD. Now you must be wondering why not the rest. So floppy, as you know what it is, LS120, even I have to still find out. And hard disk is of course our hard disk. CD-ROM is the CD DVD drive. Zip Zip is something I don't remember. It's most likely a small size data storage device. USB FDD, USB zip, USB CD-ROM, you have to ignore these. They're most likely the same things. Legacy LAN again is a LAN boot, which we don't have to do. We want the USB HDD. Of course FDD also works here, but then again I advise doing the HDD. So, and it continues into booting there. Yeah, so now it has found the Linux system disk, and it will directly boot into the Linux system. Yeah, so as I was saying, we continue to load this, and while this is loading, let us talk some more. First of all, this video should be very useful to, I think, those who have just passed their 12th, going for engineering, or going for any other course, in fact. Because let me tell you, Linux is very versatile. If you know how to use it properly, it can be very, very fast. And especially on old systems like this, where Windows might not work properly or be slow, the few tweaks lets Linux be quite fast. Okay, and there are specific versions of Linux which are optimized to run on older systems, or means to be not as hardware intensive or hardware demanding as others can be. And since this is loading, I don't know if you can see the symbol here. So this is not actually the Linux symbol, but it is some symbol. I believe this is the keyboard like something, and this is a man standing with his arms spread wide like a star. So let's reduce. Yeah, you can see it now. So we get back, and it will take some time. So what is happening right now is the files are coming in from the USB drive, and they are being loaded into the RAM. So if you, yeah, again one more thing, while you're doing this, it would be advisable if you put your RAM, put your pen drive into a port on the motherboard. So if you're on a laptop, all the ports are on the motherboard, but in case of a PC, there may be some ports out front and some ports back. So it's better you put it in one of those that is behind, because those are directly on the motherboard and those can be faster. So as you can see, Ubuntu is loading. Yeah, so this is a disk check that happens generally. So I don't actually need this right now, but as we are talking, let's let it happen. And I thought I will keep this video short and sweet, but it's turning out to be quite long. Okay, let's just cancel this. Control C allows me to cancel the file system checks. Yeah, check skipped. Okay, and it will load the Ubuntu operating system. So originally I think it should give me a choice. What do I want to do? Do I want to try it or do I want to load it? So one other unique thing about a Linux operating system is that it is allowing you to load the system and run it. Windows doesn't do this. Windows requires an install compulsorily. At least Windows 10 does. Yeah, Windows 7 did too. So yeah, you need to install, but in this case you can just run it off the USB drive live. It's called a live run. And yeah, then again you have the also have the option of using a virtual box or a virtualization software. What that means is that there is some software that allows Ubuntu to run while your Windows OS is running. I don't generally use that because it can be, how can you say, quite demanding. So yeah, it is giving me this option right here to whether I want to install or whether I want to try. So we are going to connect our mouse. Yes, the mouse is on, and I'm going to say try Ubuntu. So don't worry, even if you say install, it will continue installing. We will see that later. But this try Ubuntu option also allows us to install. So as you can see, it's loading stuff. Okay, it's making different calls to the system, most of which I will be talking about later. But yeah, stuff is happening. So I think it's given some error, but we wait for some time. The error doesn't mean it's not working. Error means it will take some time. It will use some older system, or it will use some older method. Yeah, and we are into the Linux OS, and as you can see here, it's simple to use. It's working quite fast, and let me tell you, my system is quite old. It's not new. It's from 2009. There have been a few upgrades, but nothing major. That means I've just put in some RAM. Yeah, that's actually really all that's happened. And yeah, there is also an solid state disk on which I will be installing my operating system. But as you can see here, we have the option to install Ubuntu. So this option will of course be provided. So you need not worry if you say try Ubuntu and later if you can't. Then of course pre-installed with Ubuntu there comes a browser like Edge or Internet Explorer used to come with Windows. We have my Firefox here, and that is because Firefox is also an open source browser. It's one of the most popular open source browsers. In fact, Firefox is what we were using on my Windows system too. There is the Thunderbird mail client, Files. So Files is like Windows Explorer there. It just shows you all the stuff that is downloads, etc., music on your system. But since this is a live run, not yet installed, not yet using, most of the stuff will be empty. The home folder, yeah, the home folder just lists all of these, but actually the home folder is a little more than all of this, and we will be seeing that in our later videos. As of now, let's go for installing Ubuntu. So you may be wondering, why am I showing this to you via a video? So I don't have a capture option actually here, and I don't think it will work on this system since it's just a live run, but we can still try, can't we? So let me try, and I'll be back hopefully capturing the screen. So guys, I checked and it's not possible to actually install it on the live run. There are some issues. You can maybe, but it's just too much trouble. This seems to be a better option and allows me to show you some more of some hardware stuff maybe. And yeah, so we go for install Ubuntu. We have install Ubuntu, and it will take a moment to load. I have double click. I hope it has registered. I believe it has. Yeah, it has. So this thing has come up here. Yeah, okay, so it's already there, and I will say English, of course, as our language. I hope you guys can see that. Maybe increase the brightness slightly. Yeah, and let's say continue. Yeah, and I request you to generally keep it like this, English US keyboard layout, both sides just English US. And we continue. Don't say detect keyboard because generally our keyboards are in English US. Don't go for English UK or something like that. It might not actually even make any difference. So yeah, and now when we come here, it asks us what we would like to do: a normal installation, minimal installation, download updates. So I would recommend that you don't download updates while installing, because doing this sometimes causes issues later. Secondly, I recommend that you install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware. because yeah, that allows you to better access them, and use certain software are required even by your browser to play certain videos or YouTube etc. online. And we will go for a normal installation. If you don't want much stuff, then you can go for minimal, but again I insist on a normal. Yeah, continue. And as I was saying, VirtualBox virtualization software is really not something I would advise. It taxes your system a little too much, and certain options are limited. I always, at least personally, if I have a system that is not actually very new, or the latest version of the operating system, or even the hardware, that is the processor or RAM etc., then I like to go in for a full install of Ubuntu, because that typically runs much better. And even, let's say for example, you're doing something like you're doing a course, you require, depends on your requirements, if you require Excel and all, then I would advise that this is also not a bad option, as it may not have Excel, but it has this LibreOffice. So you can see LibreOffice Writer like here. For the similarly, this is a analog to Word. It's similar. It's like a synonym to Word actually, and they are really good. As in all your basic functionality, it will have etc etc. There will be some migrating trouble, but then again, if you want something for free, of course you're going to have to go to some trouble yourself. And as we all know, Microsoft Office, hopefully we all know, Microsoft Office is not free, you have to pay for it. So this can take some time depending on how your system is. As you can see, it's still in a circle, and it's still giving that loading sign. You can see that clearly. So that is happening. And yeah, I may have mentioned before that if you're after 12th going in for your degree etc., but it's not necessary even if you have just finished your 10th grade. And I would advise to do this after 10th grade only, because till then you really don't need something like this to be done. After your 10th grade is a decent time to get into something like this, to know a little bit. You need not know everything, but I feel it is important that you know a little bit in depth about what is actually happening, and not just be like, oh, it's not working. Yeah. So we are back here, and it's come to the next screen. Now the installation type. So if you have Windows installed on your system, so as it currently shows, as I said before, it has Windows and Ubuntu already installed. So this is what is called a dual boot, and this can be done in one of two ways. So let's say there is only Windows 10 and no Ubuntu, then what it will show here is erase Windows 10 and install Ubuntu, or it will show install Ubuntu alongside Windows 10. So if you want to do a dual boot and the software is giving you an option here, you can do that. Or what you can do is erase the disk and install Ubuntu. Or the third option, if it's not showing you the Windows 10 option here, you can do something else. Okay, but in this you have to resize and multiple partitions etc., which we will not be doing here. It's a little bit complex, and I will be linking resources below so that you can do that. And we come back here, so erase Ubuntu and reinstall. So we don't want to do that. I don't actually need the Windows 10 operating system here, and it doesn't work fully. So I will just erase disk and install Ubuntu. So if we say advanced features, no, we don't want ZFS and etc., because experimental, as they said, I don't want to experiment that much that my system fails when I'm using it. And LVM is not actually necessary. You're not doing anything that will hamper our security that much here, at least. So erase disk and install. We say continue. So now it will show me my disks. So I currently have 2 disks on the system. Okay, so this 240 gigabyte is the CT240BX. So the BX500, this is my SSD, as you can see here, SSD1. So SSD is a solid state disk, it's much faster. So ideally I would choose this, but if you have only one disk, it will show only that disk. So as we have said, erase disk and install Ubuntu, it is going to format the entire disk. Okay, So yeah, you see this 240 SDA partition here, it says SDA. So that is the exact partition that is going to be formatted. Now if you are trying to dual boot, or if you have data on your disk, now is the time to quit this, close this thing, go back to your normal operating system and back up all the stuff. Okay, because once I do this, there is no going back, and I'm doing this. So I say install now, and yeah, so write changes to disk, and yeah, as it will also give you a warning, it will destroy any partitions and data. So instead of go back, I will say continue, and now this should begin. Next it will ask me for username, password, etc., and I'm going to put in all that. So you actually need to put in only the username and the password twice. The computer name it generates on itself, and I would advise that you let it be. Okay, yeah, the time period. So yeah, so we are in Mumbai. I am from Mumbai. So we click here. Essentially, it will just take up Kolkata as our time zone, and we continue. Yeah, so yeah, it asks you for your name, and from that it determines your computer name. So since this is the channel and I'm creating this as a channel computer, I will call it the Tech Archaeologist, and that gives it a name. Now what you see here, M61PMES2P, that is my motherboard's name. So I'm not sure it takes that up everywhere, but yeah, we select a password, and I'm not going to tell you what the password. So I've put in the username and password, and yeah, so the username automatically becomes my name, that is TTA, and yeah, the password I've put in, it will give me a recommendation good password, in fact excellent password too if it's quite long and has a mixed digits, etc. I would suggest that you do require my password to log in, since to perform certain actions on Linux you need to know your password, and doing this and using the system at least once a week allows you to, means it will guarantee that essentially that you remember your password and don't forget it. And we say continue. So as a home user, I don't actually need to change my password regularly. So yeah, it's saying almost finished copying files. So let it copy files, let all of this happen. And yeah, so once it's done, it will show you an option, it will ask you to restart. So instead of saying continue testing, you should say restart. And when you're restarting, it will also ask you to remove the disk from behind. So when it says that, you remove the disk and then you press enter, and the next time it starts up, Ubuntu should be running fairly well, at least that means without any issues. So yeah guys, so that will be the end of this video. In the next video I will show you some some basic setup, some softwares I like to use, which should be good for you to regularly use. Yeah, so as you can already see on the screen, VLC is one of them, Audacity is another, Firefox will already be installed, NPP, yeah. So Notepad++ is something I would like to install, but I think that requires some other stuff, because Notepad++ essentially isn't available everywhere, it's only on Windows. Yeah, so that is the end of this video guys, and please watch the introduction video or the channel video to know more about this channel. Thank you. Before I forget, please like if you like the video. If you feel it was too long, please just put in a comment below that says too long, and from next time onwards I will try to list down what I have to say and shorten my videos. Yeah, even I feel this is gonna too long. It's just been 20 minutes on this device, 10 minutes on that one. It's been a lot. Hey guys, so this is a continuation of what we were doing, and a small section which I think I recorded later. So this I have entered my BIOS, and there is another way of actually booting into your pen drive. So what you do is you come down here, and is it this? Yes. So in advanced BIOS peripherals, or there will be a section called boot in later BIOSes. whatever it is called in your BIOS. It can be under different names, just check. So you will see this boot device or boot priority, these three here: first boot device, the fourth line, the fifth line, and the sixth line. The second boot device and the third boot device. Okay, so my second boot device is the hard disk, first is the floppy. Now this is a fail-safe defaults which I had loaded once. And yeah, so there are one or two things I want to change here anyway. So first boot device, I will put it up as the hard disk right now. But if you want to boot into your pen drive, you should set it as USB HDD as shown here as well. And once you do that, it will always boot into your pen drive first. So you need to make sure that you change it back later, or you never attach a pen drive again when you're turning your PC on. Otherwise it will always try to boot into the pen drive. Now my second boot device I can have as the USB. Okay, and the third as the CD-ROM, which is currently disconnected, though I have one. And we come down here, so frame size buffer, I actually don't need one, so I will disable it. Is there an auto option? No, there is not an auto option. Okay, so the rest of it you need not be worried about right now. Even the last thing which I did, just remember you can do it this way too. As I said before, it shows that the installation has finished and we can continue. And now I will just say restart now. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so it goes into restart, and just as that is happening, will show me. Yeah, so it says exactly what I said: please remove installation medium and press enter. So the installation medium here is your pen drive. Remove the pen drive from wherever it is connected and press enter. And I press enter, and as you can see the screen goes blank. It selects again. That is my graphics card. This is the motherboard. And now I need not do anything. Now everything should load automatically. And we will wait for it. It should happen quite soon. So yeah, it's my two hard disks here. Both are master mode. Yeah, so the grub turns up. Now what the grub is... Okay, this is a mess. Yeah, so this, if you are cleaning the hard disk and installing it, this should not show up. In fact, it will not show up. But since it has showed up here, I'm just going to say Ubuntu. This is my disk on the SDA, that is the secondary disk A, and it will load Ubuntu fast. Yes. So now I should get my username and password, the login prompt, and once I log in, my operating system is ready. And we will continue from the next video on. Yes, so all I do is I have to click on this TTA, that is my account name, and it will ask me for the password. So my username is already entered, only the password. Press enter and we will be logged in. Let me enter the password. Entered, press enter. Yes. So the whole grub thing you saw, you need not worry about. So we saw numerous stuff listed there. If you do a dual boot install, then you will be able to see that, and there it will show you your Windows operating system. So the boot, so the BIOS loads grub, and then the grub loads the bootloader of the respective operating system. So grub is also a bootloader in itself. So it allows you to decide which operating system you want to start in case of a dual boot, which means you have both operating systems on your hard disk, which means on your system, PC, laptop, whatever it may be. So I don't want to connect to any online accounts right now. Or should I? Maybe I should do Google. But forget it, I'm not interested. So I will skip this. Live patch needs an account to be set up with, so let's just say next. Help improve Ubuntu. Yes, we allow them to send information to Canonical, who is responsible for maintaining and developing Ubuntu. And we say next. Privacy, location services, yeah, don't need that off. Yeah, softwares to install can be done later. Done. That's it. You're ready to use Ubuntu. You can have, just create a new folder. I'm name it TTA. And on this, oh yeah, of course, we forget that videos, YouTube. Okay. And of course, the videos YouTube folder gets created. Double click, it's an empty folder. That's it. So yeah, now you can see a list of updates as long as internet is connected, and now you can install these updates without an issue. Please do install these updates. I recommend them, but not while installing the operating system.